Good morning. I am Dr. Nicole, and we are going to talk today about how to create some very simple, deeply nutritive herbal infusions as a basic protocol to add to your daily practice that is very simple, inexpensive, and deeply nutritious. So here are just a few things to get us started. We have a 1 pound bulk bag of nettles. We have a glass jar of nettles. This is what I make my morning infusions out of. It's a little easier. Take it right out of my herb cabinet. This is a 1 quart glass mason jar, heat resistant. This is a 1 cup measuring cup, and then also we have our weight scale here. So when I design these herbal infusions, I design them to be very, very simple to apply to your daily routine. If it's not easy to do, you're not going to be able to do it consistently. And I'm starting with nettle because nettle is one of the plants that is the most deeply nutritive on the widest scale. Many vitamins and minerals, including iron and calcium, which a lot of women need more of, and also extremely good for almost every single bodily system, particularly the kidneys, the muscles, and the nervous system. The adrenal system is very nourished, and we in Western culture, most of us could use a little extra attention for our adrenal system. So there's lots more information on my website about nettles specifically, but that's the reason why I'm starting with this one today. So I start off with making the nettle infusion with 1 cup measure of nettles. And first what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the scale to zero out the weight of the measuring cup. So with my infusions, I recommend starting with 1 cup because ideally in a quart jar, you want to be using an ounce of nettle. But again, my goal here is to make this easy to do, and not everyone's going to want to pull out a scale every night when they make their nettle infusion. So I'm going to start off with just a full cup of nettle, and we're just going to see how much this weighs. So this 1 cup of nettle actually only weighs about ½ an ounce. So you could actually use 2 cups of nettle, but again, my goal, make it easy, make it simple. It is a little bit hard to get the full cup of nettle in the mason jar without making a mess. Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and close that up. You always want to use clean materials to get into your bulk jars. Now we're going to heat up the water. So these mason jars are heat resistant. I still recommend that when you fill them up, you do fill them in the sink. When these do get banged around over time, if they get little scores or bump up against other things in the washing machine, when you pour hot water directly into them, they can crack. So I like to do it in the sink when I'm filling them up with the boiling water, just to be on the safe side. But most of these jars I've used 20 or 30 times. I've not had a problem. You see, when I make my infusions, I actually make them in a larger volume because I go through so much of them. So while we're waiting for the water to heat up, I'm going to talk a little bit about the straining systems that I use. So I use a stainless steel sprouting lid so that we're not using any plastic. And then I also just use the basic ring that comes on the mason jar by itself. When we add the boiling water to the jar and we leave it to sit overnight, I also use the original metal lid just to keep the moisture in and stop it from evaporating out in the middle of the night. What you will get in the morning after this has been sitting covered in boiling water overnight is effectively a black liquid of nettle infusion. You can tell how deeply nutritive it is because the water obviously starts off as very clear, and when you're done in the morning and you strain it off, you will see that it's very, very dark in color. The nettle has a very deep, kind of almost smoky flavor. It is an herbal infusion, so it doesn't have a tremendous amount of sweetness to it. Sometimes I like to add hibiscus or a little bit of licorice root if people don't like the taste of it. But nettle in general is a pretty mild taste as far as some herbs go. So it's quite palatable once you get used to drinking it every day. And I actually love to drink nettle a little bit warm with a little bit of salt. It tastes better to me, especially in the winter, as almost like a broth rather than a tea or infusion. So this is where we start with this. So the bulk nettles, while we're waiting for our water to heat up, the bulk nettles generally are anywhere in between $23 and $28 per pound, depending on where you source them from. I like to try and get them as close to our native area as possible, but I order enough bulk herbs that I basically get the most organic and most consistent source that I can find, because I do go through so many of them. At a 1 ounce dose, the 1 pound bags would last for 16 days. Given that the 1 cup dose was about half an ounce, you should probably get about a month out of a 1 pound bag of nettles. So as you see, it's a pretty affordable way to get a regular source of deeply nutritive vitamins and minerals into your daily routine. I also like to implement, while you're drinking them, a little bit of a kind of meditation that you are deeply nourishing and caring for yourself. It's designed to be part of a self-care routine. And most of, or a lot of the programs that are out there now are about detoxification and cleansing. And although that can be beneficial, in my opinion, it sends a little bit of an adversarial message to your body, that there's something wrong, there's something that you put in it that has to come out, you're trying to push things out that don't belong there. What infusions do is they allow you to approach your self-care routine with an energy of self-care and nourishment and appreciation, which actually allows your organs of elimination in your body to process any toxins or things in your body that you might be better off without in its own timely fashion and at its own pace. Sometimes the detoxification programs can actually really aggravate some people's conditions. So I like this as just a simple way to start. If you're looking for a simple routine to add to your daily regime that is a self-caring and deeply nutritive process. For women in particular, it's also wonderful for additional help for bone density, for hormonal regulation, and again for the adrenal system. Very, very powerful. So I can hear our water boiling here. And just for the video purposes, I'm going to do this right on the counter. This way here. And I'm going to pour the water slowly in. And we have the cat jumping on the chair where the camera is. Apologize for any shaking that you're seeing. Get down. So I do like to make sure that the herbal material is completely submerged into the water. And then again, I'm going to put on the screen and the lid here. And then I'm going to place metal side down, the original mason jar lid, just to keep the evaporation from coming on out. When you go to use this in the morning, it's going to be, again, this very, very dark color. And because you have the stainless steel screen on here, all you need to do is pick up the cool jar, take whatever you're going to be drinking your infusion out of all day. Sometimes I just put it right back in another mason jar glass. And you can just turn it upside down and pour it directly in, because the screen is fine enough that none of the, no cats on the counter, none of the plant material will get back into the herbal infusion. So thank you for joining me. Just a little something to show you tangibly how easy this is to implement into your practices every day. I'm Dr. Nicole, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.